Hi everybody, welcome to or back to the channel. This one I have been waiting for. I had it on my hold list at the library. It was a newer release, so I didn't know how long I was gonna have to wait, but she arrived. It's the new one from Sarah Beth Durst. You know we are Sarah Beth Durst fans over here. I have a video for the Spellshop on the channel. I'll link it below if you have not seen it before, but this is the Sea of Charms, and how pretty is this cover? I mean, you've got like the little magical boat out there. You have the little gate like coming to the cottage. You learn in the book there are flying cats, so we have flying cats on here, as you do. And this is Perri. This is the sea serpent that's in the book. Now, I am not a fan of serpents. I'm not a fan of snakes and just life in general. But mythical Perri, we have to fall in love with mythical Perri. And we have a sprayed edge, and you know how Jennifer loves a sprayed edge. So win-win-win all the way around. I have talked about Sarah Beth Durst before. I really think it's just fun to have this kind of whimsical fantasy story that you can talk about every once in a while. Is that I don't think that this one has to be some huge takeaway like I talked about in the Spellshop. This is a cozy burr month book. I think September, October, November, December, you guys have heard me talk about before, my favorite time of the year, like cozy up with some coffee or hot chocolate and your blankie by the fireplace. This is where that title comes from. So this is her third in the Spellshop series. So it's nice because you get to visit a little bit of the characters of the past. We get to see just a very little brief appearance by Kaz, the sentient plant. You know how I love Kaz. I talked about that in the last video. We also get to visit Keela and Marin, get to just see a little bit of their little spell shop. Once again, they make an appearance. Bryn makes an appearance from her bake shop. They focus a little bit more on Yara and Tulu from the second book, which was the Enchanted Greenhouse, as you would expect that they would, because that was the most recent in the series. But it's nice to just have these little cameos of these characters that we loved so much. So the basis of this book is we have Marin, yes, Mariner, Marin, who is a captain of a ship. I also love that Sarah Beth Durst takes these strong female characters who are trying to take control over their life, and you know, they're trying to take the next step and forge their own paths, and that they are the main characters, you know, in their story. So she is using her boat. Her boat is named Silver, and she's using it to take goods around to the different islands and whatnot, because she is trying to make money to pay her parents' debts off, to pay the mortgage back. She was engaged to a man who turned into not be a good guy, and he was using their relationship as a way to undermine the business, her parents' business, and, you know, take everything from them. So Marin is carrying this huge weight of the responsibility that she feels like she needs to pay her parents' mortgage debts off and make sure they don't lose everything, because it was her fault that she was entangled with this guy. Now, of course, she didn't do it intentionally, and it's on him for the deception, you know, that he caused in the family, but she's carrying this huge weight around with her. So she's sailing around on her ship. She meets Perri, who's kind of her protector and is following her around. She keeps going into port. She crosses paths with Dax, who becomes one of her crew, if you will. And, you know, there's of course a romance story that goes along there. And then she also has a waxed myrtle plant, Ree. We love, again, a sentient plant in this. Ree becomes part of the ship hands too. I love that a plant can become a character. Like you can envision him just bouncing around in his leaves when he gives hugs and he's wrapping around them. Again, it's just fun and fantastical. And there are dragons, like I said, the flying cats that are on here that you see. We visit Marin's parents, and I love her parents too. Like they're just proud of her, and like, you know, they want her to go do what she's doing. And it's just a very fun filled sea adventure, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean-esque, but in an enchanted magical land with enchanted cottages and enchanted bake shops and enchanted hulls of the boat. You know, they're going to transport, there's a fire that happens in the city, so people are trying to flee the city, and of course she can't save everyone, and she's worried about saving herself and saving her boat because it's her means of making money. But they end up saving a bunch of Yarrow's family members, and magically, you know, the whole of the boat can accommodate all of these extra people. You step inside, it shouldn't be that big, and magically it is that big, right? So she of course crosses paths again with her ex-fiance. They have a little tussle there, and you know, he's just awful to her, that she's just not good enough and she's not worth it. It's like, please dump this man into the sea somewhere. We need him to go far, far away from here. We're not a fan of his. And Dax steps up to the plate, and go Dax and Marin. We're team Dax and Marin over here. I also love that each chapter has this little illustration on here that looks kind of a little peach tree with flowers, which is definitely a tie back to the prior books in this series. We have the Spellshop where Keela's making her fruit jam, where the fruit, you know, continues to bloom out of nowhere. And then of course the last book was the Enchanted greenhouse, which of course is growing all of these plants and some of the sentient plants that we meet, Marin being one of them as well. The library that we heard about that Keela was fleeing from in the Spellshop also makes another appearance. We hear more about the Emperor who was thrown out a window. That's one way to take care of a situation if you need to take care of dethroning a ruler. That's a way to do it. And Dax, of course, is super talented, as all the gentlemen are who are in these books. He's a composer and he plays music. And I imagine him kind of like Eric from The Little Mermaid. You know, we talked about Eric and all his composing skills in the Twisted Tale video, but that's kind of my vision of Dax in my mind, especially out to sea. I mean, how much more romantic can it be? You have a composer who's gonna play the harp for you while you're on a boat in the ocean, watching the moon. Come on, the story writes itself. I also love the scene where they're visiting one of the islands and they go to a cheese shop that is unicorn cheese, because it's not goats or sheep or cows that are in the field, it's unicorns, and you milk the unicorns, and of course there's unicorn cheese. Why would there not be unicorn cheese? Again, like, it's just fun and fantastical. I never heard of unicorn cheese. There's a first time for everything. And one of the reviews on the back of the book here said it's as comforting as homemade jam on a fresh baked muffin. That, I think, is how I would wrap up. That's a perfect description of Sarah Beth Durst's work. Like I said, it is like a warm hug. I said the same thing about the Spellshop. I think it's fun to continue and kind of see these little cameos from these other characters that we've seen in books past. It's an adventure, it's warm, it's comforting. These fantastical creatures, it's just fun all the way around. I think her writing is very descriptive. You feel like you're on the boat, you feel like you're on the ocean, visiting all of these fantastical places with all of these characters. If you're looking for a fantasy that's not too far deep into the depths of fantasy, it's not like sci-fi fantasy, it's a warm hug fantasy. Give Sea of Charms a try.